It's been more than a decade since Kevin Hart became one of the biggest names in comedy. His high-energy storytelling, full of awkward tales about his family, his childhood, and himself, made him feel authentic in a way few comics ever do. Crowds didn't just laugh with him, they connected with him. That connection turned him into a phenomenon, selling out an NFL stadium, starring in films that poured in billions, and building a business empire that stretched from Hollywood productions to tequila, supplements, and even fast food. Kevin Hart wasn't just successful, he became unavoidable. But somewhere along the way, the underdog everyone rooted for started to disappear. The film roles began to feel recycled, the comedy louder but flatter, and the scandals, the cheating, the extortion, the Oscars fallout, made it harder to laugh along. Even his peers began to question whether Kevin was still the scrappy hustler he claimed to be, or just the polished product of a machine. By 2024, the criticism cut deeper than ever. It wasn't about his jokes or his movies anymore, it was about his influence, and whether Kevin has too much power over who makes it and who doesn't. Today, he's still winning, still expanding, and still stacking success, but what he sacrificed to get there may be the very thing that once made him special. The version of Kevin Hart that everyone fell in love with didn't just come out of nowhere. It was built and shaped by pain, dysfunction, and the pressure to survive. Raised in North Philadelphia by his mother, Nancy Hart, Kevin and his older brother, Robert, grew up in a single-parent household. Their father, Henry Witherspoon, battled drug addiction and was frequently incarcerated. When he was around, his behavior was unpredictable. Nancy stepped into both parental roles, the provider, the disciplinarian, and the emotional anchor, doing everything she could to keep her sons stable, while shielding them from their father's chaos. But raising two boys alone in a tough environment came with its challenges. They struggled financially, crammed into a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood riddled with crime and drugs. Without a strong male role model, Robert got pulled into the streets. He joined a gang, started dealing, and even got caught up in a robbery. In court, he was given a choice, prison or the military, and he chose the latter. For Nancy, that was a wake-up call. She became even stricter with Kevin, keeping him busy, closely watched, and out of trouble.
My mother was strict, but she was strict because she saw mistakes that she had made with my brother and letting my brother do certain things and my brother responding to that freedom negatively. So I was the one that couldn't get out of sight. I was the one that never could do something by myself. I had extracurricular activities. I had a babysitter. I was never not watched.
That structure gave Kevin discipline early on. Over time though, it became clear that school just wasn't his thing. He eventually dropped out of college and took a job as a shoe salesman. Still, the work ethic his mum had drilled into him stuck, and he quickly became the top salesman at the store. But what really set him apart wasn't just his hustle, it was his energy. Kevin had this big, infectious personality that lit up every room. He always kept his co-workers and customers laughing, and one day, a colleague told him he should try stand-up at a local open mic, so he gave it a shot. From the moment he touched the mic, Kevin was hooked. The spotlight, the laughs, the connection with the crowd, it lit something inside of him. And soon, he started entering comedy competitions and winning.
The first amateur night I won, I said, this is crazy. I can't believe I won. I was performing against like 7 other people. I won. Came back the next week, I won again. Came back the next week, I won again. Came back the next week, I won again. I won 6 times and I quit my job. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm a comedian. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Surprisingly, his mother backed him. She was a devout Christian who, according to Kevin, had never even watched stand-up, but she agreed to pay his rent for a year on the condition that if it didn't work out, he'd go back to college. Confident he could make it, Kevin started spending time with veteran comedians like Keith Robinson and performing regularly at clubs around Philadelphia under the stage name Lil Kev the Bastard. His early sets leaned on raunchy impressions and borrowed styles, the kind of material that got laughs in quick bursts but didn't feel personal or original. The audience could tell, and the connection wasn't there. Determined to get better, he hit the road, performing anywhere he could. New York, Philly, Boston, city after city, club after club. The grind wasn't easy. He got booed off stage more than once, and at one particularly brutal gig in a strip club, someone threw a chicken wing at his face.
A guy threw the wing at me. I was like, why are you even here? That's what I was thinking in my mind. He was like, hey man, enough.
Yeah.
And he just threw a saucy buffalo wing at me, hit me in the side of the face.
But Kevin wasn't discouraged. Instead, he adapted. Those rough nights taught him something crucial. Audiences connected more when he told more personal stories. So he leaned into that and started telling stories from his own life, his insecurities, his strict upbringing, and his complicated relationship with his drug-addicted father. That shift didn't make him a star overnight, but it did change the way crowds responded. Slowly, the buzz around his stand-up began to grow. He was still grinding, traveling city to city playing small clubs, but now people remembered him. One of those people was director Judd Apatow, who liked what he saw and cast Kevin in a recurring role on the 2001 sitcom Undeclared. It wasn't a starring role, but it put Kevin on a network set for the first time and introduced him to an entirely new audience. Off the back of that, he began booking small but steady parts in films like Paper Soldiers and Scary Movie 3, slowly building his resume. Around that same time, Kevin married his college sweetheart, Torrey Skipper, and it felt like all the pieces were finally falling into place. His momentum kept building when he landed his first starring role with The Big House, a sitcom he was not only the lead in, but also created. Loosely inspired by The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it followed a rich Malibu kid forced to move in with his relatives in Philadelphia. ABC, the network behind it, seemed all in. They even flew Kevin out to present the show to advertisers. This was supposed to be his moment, but just seconds before going on stage to introduce the show, everything collapsed.
I'm next to walk on stage so they can announce The Big House. You're the guy with the microphone that's backstage managing the... This is what I see. He's right here. I'm with him. All right, I'll tell him right now. Kevin, hold up 1 second. They just said they're not going to go through or pick it up. Somebody should be back here to talk to you shortly.
Just like that, it was over. Kevin had poured everything he had into The Big House, only to be told moments before stepping on stage to promote it that ABC wasn't going to pick it up. It was only later that he learned the full picture. The network would still air the 6 episodes that had already been made, but there would be no future beyond that. From the moment it premiered, Kevin knew the show was already over. Still, hope remained. He just landed his first leading film role in Soul Plane, sharing the screen with big names like Snoop Dogg, Method Man, Monique, and a then up-and-coming Sofia Vergara. The film had a built-in audience and the potential to be a breakout hit for him, but before it could even make it to theaters, disaster struck. A leaked copy of the film spread online months before its official release, gutting any momentum. By the time Soul Plane opened, most of the core audience had already seen it for free. The movie tanked at the box office and was panned by critics, cementing its place as a commercial and critical flop. That was 2 high-profile disappointments in a row for Kevin, and in Hollywood, that kind of streak doesn't earn you sympathy. It gets you fewer calls, fewer auditions, and fewer chances. Kevin had done everything by the book, but just when it looked like he might finally break through, the system seemed to spit him out. That's when something shifted. Kevin stopped chasing Hollywood's approval and started betting on himself. He went back to what he knew best, stand-up. He worked any stage that would have him, from tiny clubs to backroom bars across the country, rebuilding his reputation one set at a time. By 2009, Kevin was ready to take more control over his career. He launched his own production company, Heartbeat Productions, and began releasing comedy specials on his own terms. The first was I'm a Grown Little Man, where he doubled down on the honesty that had first gotten him noticed, talking about his childhood, his insecurities, and his experiences as a husband and father. The special was a hit. It was funny and relatable, and audiences loved it. A year later, Kevin followed it up with Seriously Funny, which was also received well, but it was Laugh at My Pain in 2011 that became the real game changer. The special pulled in an unexpected $7.7 million at the box office, making it one of the highest grossing stand-up specials of all time. Kevin was over the moon, but just as his career was taking off, his personal life was beginning to implode. I'm online pretty much everywhere, whether I'm streaming at home, browsing on my phone, or uploading a new video from my laptop when I travel. So having a legit, fast VPN is crucial. My recommendation, Proton VPN. There are lots of standouts for me, but one of the best parts is how it supports streaming. Let's say I'm abroad and want to watch the US Netflix library, like Grey's Anatomy for example. I just connect to a US server and I'm in. Proton VPN has over 13,000 servers in over 110 countries, and it's fully optimized for streaming, meaning you can use it for all your favorite streaming platforms on all major devices. And speed? Not a problem. We're talking up to 10 gigabytes per second connections with their VPN accelerator, which means I can watch in 4K without that annoying buffering. The other reason I stick with Proton VPN is online privacy. Proton VPN encrypts my connection, hides my real IP, and their NetShield feature even blocks ads and trackers, meaning my online activity is safe from prying eyes. With their no logs policy and Swiss laws, I know I can trust that Proton doesn't collect or sell my data. If you want to stream without borders and keep your online activity private, use my link protonvpn.com/tellusmore for an exclusive 64% off your subscription today. Sign up now. Professionally, Kevin had found a way to win on his own terms, but at home, things were unraveling. His marriage to Tori Skipper had grown increasingly volatile, weighed down by constant arguments and deep fractures in trust. After 8 years together, the relationship finally collapsed, and they filed for divorce in 2011. Before the dust even settled, he began dating Iniko Parrish, a relationship that would later draw public attention of its own. And on the career side, Hollywood was finally calling again. He landed a role in Think Like a Man, a romantic comedy centered on 4 couples navigating love and trust. The film was a surprise box office smash, grossing over $96 million on a $12 million budget, and it proved Kevin wasn't just a stand-up star. He could deliver impressive numbers on the big screen. But even with a blockbuster film and a new romance, Kevin was quietly spiraling. In his memoir, I Can't Make This Up, Life Lessons, he admitted, "As my career soared, my relationship with alcohol worsened. Money was coming in, but it was quickly being spent on drugs and alcohol. Eventually, this bad habit caught up with him. In April 2013, he was arrested for driving under the influence after speeding dangerously on the highway and nearly crashing into a gas tanker.
Got pulled over last night, gave me the whole test, passed the test. Officer then gave me the breathalyzer. Failed the breathalyzer. I said, look, it's fine, I'm drunk, I get it, do what you gotta do."
He was sentenced to 3 years of probation and ordered to complete a 3-month alcohol education program. In the celebrity world, drinking is often brushed off as a byproduct of fame, so the incident did little to slow his momentum. Just 2 months later, Kevin released his 4th comedy special, Let Me Explain, where he opened up about the DUI, his kids, and his divorce. He'd built his career on personal storytelling, often turning his own flaws into punchlines, but by this point, a big chunk of his act centered on his failed marriage. One standout bit had him portraying his ex-wife Tori as jealous and controlling, mimicking her voice, and even joking about her hiding in his car trunk to catch him cheating.
True story, people. That's exactly what I do. Get in the shower, get dressed, get in my car, start driving to the store. On the way to the store, I hit a speed bump. When I hit the speed bump, I hear a lot of noise in the trunk. Boom! Boom-doom-doom! Boom! That's weird. I ain't put shit in the trunk. The fuck is all that noise in a goddamn trunk? I'm small. I get scared fast. So, I get out the car, I pop the trunk. This is some true shit. I popped the trunk. When I popped the trunk, this bitch was stooped down in the trunk like this, looking at me.
The crowd ate it up and the special was a commercial success, but not everyone was convinced about Kevin. A few voices in the comedy world began openly questioning his style and credibility. One of the loudest came in 2014 when Mike Epps was asked in an interview which comedian he thought was overrated, and without hesitation, he named Kevin Hart.
One overrated comedian.
Kevin Hart.
He went on to say, "In this business right here, guess what? Sometimes marketing can be bigger than talent. This business is not about being funny. This business is about being forced on people. You can be forced on people and then you can be really, really funny. If the business was based on being funny, wouldn't none of these suckers be in it?" Kevin didn't let this slide. He fired back on Twitter saying, "Just heard Mike Epps call me overrated this morning. I missed it because I was on set working. Do you remember what that is?" Then he added a warning. "Oh, and one more thing, Mike Epps. If you keep talking crazy, I'll book shows the same day as you, in the same cities, and shut you down." Mike simply responded saying, "Hollywood love indentured servants." It was a subtle jab, suggesting that Kevin's rise wasn't just about talent, but about playing the Hollywood game, saying yes to the right executives, and keeping the industry's power players happy. And Mike Epps wasn't the only one questioning Kevin's credibility. Comedian Aries Spears also took aim at him, suggesting Kevin leaned on writers, something Spears argued tarnished his reputation.
But to sit up there and have a team of motherfuckers helping write your jokes, how incredible, like, how much credit can you get for being incredible if that's not your train of thought? But if that's not your point of view, those aren't your thoughts, those aren't your words articulated and formulated to come out and make a motherfucker hunch over and hold their stomach and wipe their tear ducts because they dying because of what they hearing.
For Spears, if the words and point of view aren't entirely yours, the impact and the credit should be shared. But in Kevin's case, most of his material comes straight from his own life, his marriage, his relationships, making it the kind of content no outside writer can just fabricate.
My stand-up comedy is all self-based. I don't tell jokes. My kids, my life, my divorce, my school situation with my kids, my house situation, it's all personal. It's not something that I can go out and have writers come up with and bring back to me because it's my life.
He clarified further that those writers credited on his specials were just close friends who traveled with him and gave him feedback.
So when you're saying things on stage, hey, Kev, you know what else would be funny? Hey, Kev, you know what else you should do? Hey, look at this. What you think about this? Oh my God, that's funny. Oh yeah, I'm gonna add to that. You then become a team.
Still, even with that explanation, Kevin never quite got the stamp of respect in certain comedy circles, but that didn't stop him. In October 2016, he dropped another special called What Now, and kept racking up box office wins. Ride Along, Get Hard, The Wedding Ringer, Central Intelligence, and Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. He was on a roll, but soon a pattern began to form in his roles, and it wasn't subtle. Most roles put him in the same position, the loud, fast-talking sidekick to a taller, more commanding lead. In Ride Along, he was the jittery brother-in-law to Ice Cube's stone-faced cop. In Get Hard, the quick-witted coach to Will Ferrell's clueless millionaire. In The Wedding Ringer, the slick, hyperactive best man for hire opposite Josh Gad's awkward groom. And in Central Intelligence, the formula was cemented. Dwayne Johnson got the heroic, muscle-bound spotlight, while Kevin played the frantic comic relief. That pairing carried straight into Jumanji, locking Kevin into a dynamic that became both his signature and his cage. And the longer it lasted, the more it seemed like Kevin was leaning into roles that exaggerated the insecurities he often joked about, masking them with loudness, especially the ones about his height.
Kevin's had you've had weird fan characters.
Well, what happens if you're 3'2"? I actually bought a picture of Kevin for you guys when he was 16 as well.
So same age.
Same age. There he is, yeah. He's doing this. I wish I was this tall, but I'll never get this tall.
According to Google, how tall is Kevin?
Well, I'll go for what I know. Yes. Legit answer, legit, because I know you're my best friend. 4'2".
It made people laugh and it sold tickets, so directors kept offering him the same role, and Kevin kept saying yes. But while those films kept him famous, they didn't necessarily bring him the status or artistic respect he craved. Kevin wanted ownership, legacy, and power, so he started branching out. His first big move was a partnership with Nike to release his own signature training shoes, the Hustle Hearts, making him the first comedian ever to do so. He dropped his own emoji keyboard, Kevmoji, which shot to #1 in the App Store, and he even moved into tech, investing in music, a startup creating smart headphones. None of these ventures were tied to comedy or film, and that was the point. It was about building a brand that could live beyond the stage or screen. Then came Laugh Out Loud, a digital comedy platform launched in partnership with Lionsgate. It featured sitcoms, stand-up, sketch shows, everything funny, all in one place. According to Kevin, it was built to shift power back to creators, but at its core, it was about something else entirely. Him finally getting to that seat where decisions are made. He said, "For me, it's about becoming a mogul, owning my own projects, and establishing myself as a funding producer. When you're your own brand and you're your own boss, the line of work changes. That's my biggest turn on." Kevin had gone from the comic trying to get through the door to the one holding it open for others. But just when it seemed like he couldn't put a foot wrong, the scandals began to surface. At around 5 a.m. on July 3rd, 2017, Kevin was photographed outside a Miami hotel with singer Monique Gonzalez. The two were seen laughing and smiling, alone in a car. Now at this time, Kevin was married to Iniko Parrish, the model he'd started dating several years prior, so both the timing and setting raised alarm bells. Tabloids ran with the photos, and rumors of Kevin cheating spread fast. Rather than address it seriously, Kevin posted a meme of himself laughing, brushing the story off like a joke. He deflected with humor before, like the famous bit about his wife hiding in the trunk to catch him cheating. But with real photos this time and the media driving a narrative, it planted a seed. That seed only grew the following month, when Iniko posted a photo celebrating their 1-year anniversary with a caption that read, "I love you more every day. 8 years together, 1 year married, forever to go." That detail sparked controversy. Kevin's divorce from his ex-wife Torre wasn't finalized until 2011, only 6 years earlier. If Iniko's 8 years together claim was accurate, it suggests their relationship began while he was still legally married. One Instagram user was quick to point this out, pointing the finger at Iniko for being the woman who came between Kevin and Torre, and ultimately the reason the marriage ended. Iniko was quick to respond, saying Torre knew about her all along. Their marriage was broken way before I came in the picture. They were separated, living in separate homes. I was never a secret. The Instagram user apologized, but then Eniko pushed things further, calling out Torre and accusing her of spreading lies. It's no problem at all. I'm basically immune to it now. Those rumors were spread from her years ago because she wanted to play the victim and not own up to her wrongdoings as well. Singled me out as the mistress because we stuck, knowing damn well there were other women during their marriage. That's when Torre responded, telling Eniko to either speak the truth or not speak at all. Eniko, sweetheart, normally I don't feed into this, but when you addressed me, you forced my hand to respond or to be made out a liar. We've made successful strides to become a loving, co-parenting family, but you've left it open for my character to be questioned. You, Kevin, and I know the truth. The entire exchange was picked up by the press, and the public reaction was immediate. Most sided with Torre, and while Eniko's image took a hit, Kevin wasn't spared either. For many, the idea that his old cheating jokes might not have been just a bit, but a reflection of real behavior, shifted how they saw him. And while his supporters were still holding out hope that he hadn't cheated at all, the next scandal shattered that illusion. In September 2017, Kevin posted a video on Instagram admitting to making poor decisions and apologizing to Eniko and his kids.
I'm at a place in my life where I feel like I have a target on my back, and because of that, I should make smart decisions. And recently, I didn't. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I am or claim to be in any way, shape, or form. And I made a bad error in judgment and put myself in an environment where only bad things can happen, and they did. And in doing that, I know that I'm going to hurt the people closest to me, who I've talked to and apologized to, being my wife and my kids.
He also hinted that someone was trying to extort him.
But I'm not going to also allow a person to have financial gain off of my mistakes. And in this particular situation, that's what was attempted.
The very next day, TMZ reported that someone was indeed trying to extort Kevin for millions over an explicit video that appeared to show him with another woman in a Las Vegas hotel. Soon after, TMZ released stills said to be from the footage, showing Kevin in a compromising position. The internet erupted with speculation about the woman's identity. Some tabloids labeled her a stripper attempting blackmail, but the truth came out days later. At a press conference with attorney Lisa Bloom, Montia Sabag, a 27-year-old aspiring actress and recording artist, confirmed she was the woman in the video, but firmly denied having anything to do with recording or extortion.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Montia Sabag. I was involved with Kevin Hart a month ago. Since then, my pictures and my name have been released with lies written about me. I am not an extortionist. I'm not a stripper. I'm a recording artist and an actress, and I have not broken any laws. I had nothing to do with these recordings.
So Kevin had gone from being spotted in a parked car with another woman to being exposed in an explicit video, all while his wife was heavily pregnant. His reputation took a massive hit, but through it all, Eniko stayed. She forgave him, and in November 2017, just weeks after the tape surfaced, they welcomed their first child together. Even though Eniko moved forward, the public didn't. Some praised Kevin for owning up to his mistakes, but for many others, the damage was permanent. His apology felt like damage control, not real remorse. And then, months later, came a twist that no one expected. In April 2018, police arrested Jonathan J.T. Jackson, Kevin's longtime friend, and charged him with attempted extortion. Prosecutors alleged that Jackson tried to blackmail Kevin for millions using the tape. The revelation reframed the scandal. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Kevin's infidelity, it was about betrayal, someone from his own circle turning against him. Coverage shifted toward the extortion plot. It didn't erase Kevin's choices, but it complicated the narrative, casting him not only as someone who cheated, but also as a victim. Some began to see him less as a cheater and more as a target. But even that sympathy didn't last long, because later that year, Kevin was back in the headlines, this time for a whole new controversy. In December 2018, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced that Kevin Hart would host the 2019 Oscars. On Instagram, Kevin called it the opportunity of a lifetime. He was emotional, excited, and proud. But within days, old tweets of his began resurfacing. Some dated back almost a decade, and many contained homophobic jokes and slurs. One from 2011 read, "If my son comes home and tries to play with my daughter's dollhouse, I'm going to break it over his head and say in my voice, 'Stop, that's..." Another from 2010 described someone's profile picture as a billboard for AIDS, and one from 2009 used a slur, calling someone a fat. What some had once brushed off as edgy comedy was now being seen very differently. The tone of those jokes wasn't just offensive, it reinforced harmful stereotypes and sent the message that being gay was wrong. And coming from someone with Kevin's platform, that kind of message mattered. Soon, calls grew for him to step down as host. At first, Kevin refused to apologize. In a video he posted, he said the tweets were from years ago, that he'd already addressed them and that he'd moved on.
Guys, I'm almost 40 years old. If you don't believe that people change, grow, evolve as they get older, I don't know what to tell you.
Later that day, he released another video where he announced that the Academy had asked him to apologize or quit.
I just got a call from the Academy, and that call basically said, Kevin, apologize for your tweets of old, or we're going to have to move on and find another host. Talking about the tweets from 2009, 2010. I chose to pass. I passed on the apology.
At first, Kevin stood firm, insisting that he'd grown since those tweets and didn't owe anyone a fresh apology. But that stance only fueled the backlash. By the following morning, under mounting pressure, Kevin took to Twitter to announce he'd be stepping down as host and issued a direct apology to the LGBTQ community. A few weeks later, Kevin appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Ellen, one of the most prominent openly gay celebrities in Hollywood, defended him and revealed she'd even called the Academy, asking them to take him back.
I called the Academy today because I really want you to host the Oscars. So I called them. I said, Kevin's on. I have no idea if he wants to come back and host, but what are your thoughts? And they were like, oh my God, we want him to host. We feel like that maybe he misunderstood or it was handled wrong, or maybe we said the wrong thing, but we want him to host. Whatever we can do, we would be thrilled. Whatever's going on in the internet, don't pay attention to them. That's a small group of people being very, very loud. We are a huge group of people who love you and want to see you host the Oscars.
For a moment, it seemed like there was a chance he might come back, but the interview sparked a new wave of backlash. Many felt Ellen had minimized the concerns of the LGBTQ community and given Kevin cover to avoid real accountability. Instead of repairing his image, the appearance reignited the controversy, and 5 days later on Good Morning America, Kevin put the issue to bed.
You apologized, you said you were sorry, but there are a lot of people who've taken an issue to the way that you've apologized. So what do you say to that?
I say I'm done with it. It gets no more energy from me. There's no more conversation about it. I'm over that. I'm over the moment, and I'm about today.
Is there a hope that you would host the Oscars this year?
No. So
that's an absolute no.
Yes, I'm not hosting the Oscars this year.
The Academy moved forward without him, and for the first time in 30 years, the Oscars went hostless. After stepping down from the Oscars, Kevin tried to turn a page. In April 2019, he released his 6th stand-up special on Netflix, Irresponsible. It was positioned as a reset, his chance to remind audiences why they loved him in the first place. And commercially, it landed. But critically, the response was muted. Reviews described the set as predictable, safe, and repetitive. Instead of breaking new ground, Kevin leaned heavily on familiar material about family life, infidelity, and domestic squabbles. Even one of his big centerpiece bits about hiding a gun in different rooms of his house fell flat because of how often he repeated the same punchline. For the first time in years, the narrative around Kevin Hart's comedy shifted. He wasn't the unstoppable underdog anymore. He was a global superstar, but one who critics said might be running out of fresh things to say. Then everything took a sudden turn. On September 1st, 2019, Labor Day weekend, Kevin was in a near-fatal car crash while riding in his 1970 Plymouth Barracuda. His friend Jared Black was behind the wheel, with his fiancée Rebecca Broxterman, Nico's personal trainer, in the back seat. Jared lost control on Mulholland Highway, and the car veered off the road into a ditch. Kevin's back was broken in 3 places. He was rushed into emergency surgery, followed by months of painful rehabilitation.
It was worse than we thought. Just released video shows the grueling recovery process for comedian Kevin Hart following the car crash that left him with his vertebrae broken in 3 places. Hart endured painful back surgery to fuse his spine. The video shows the scar on his back and the rehab he's undergoing to recover.
There are patients who have x-rays like him who are in a wheelchair for the rest of their lives.
Hart continues to wear a back brace
to help give some added stability to the spine. He has 8 screws in his spine, he has rods, he underwent major surgery.
For once, Hart was forced to step away from the grind, and when he re-emerged, there was genuine sympathy. People saw a more vulnerable side of him, and it was a reminder that no matter who you are, everything can be taken away from you in a second.
But after my accident, I see things differently. I see life from a whole new perspective. My appreciation
for life is through the roof.
When Kevin returned at the end of 2019, it was with the Netflix docuseries titled Don't Fuck This Up. Filmed before his car accident, the series promised an unfiltered look at his life and the controversies that had surrounded him. It revisited the extortion case and the Oscars fallout, while also highlighting his discipline and drive. But for many viewers, it wasn't the level of honesty they expected. Kevin had shown flashes of vulnerability in interviews before, but here, the emphasis shifted back to his success and relentless work ethic. When he did address controversy, it felt surface level, and the series came across more like reputation management than real reflection. Still, Kevin's career didn't slow. In 2021, he signed a long-term deal with Netflix that led to fatherhood and the limited series True Story, followed by comedies like The Man from Toronto and Me Time. Then came the biggest move of all. In 2022, he merged Heartbeat Productions and Laugh Out Loud, secured a $100 million investment from private equity firm Abry Partners, and relaunched everything under one banner, Heartbeat. Trade press hailed the move as a game changer, reporting that the new company carried a valuation of around $650 million. But coverage also emphasized how different Hart's venture looked now compared to its early days, less like a scrappy comedy startup and more like a full-scale media corporation, complete with private equity backing, executive leadership, and aggressive growth plans. In other words, Kevin Hart wasn't just a comedian anymore. He wasn't even just an entertainer. He'd become a CEO, the head of a brand that looked more like a financial enterprise than a creative force. And the more corporate he got, the further he expanded. Hart House, his plant-based fast food chain, Gran Coramino Tequila, Vita Hustle protein shakes, and a venture capital arm investing in tech and lifestyle startups. Kevin wasn't just performing anymore, he was building an empire. But with that level of success came louder criticism. In January 2024, comedian Katt Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay and reignited an old debate about Kevin's rise. He called him an industry plant, suggesting his career wasn't built solely on talent and hustle, but boosted by powerful backers behind the scenes.
Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definitions of these words.
Kevin moved to LA around 2000. By 2001, he had a network role on Undeclared, and just 3 years later, he was cast as the lead in Soul Plane. That kind of rapid rise is almost unheard of. Most comedians spend a decade or more grinding before they see anything close to that. So it does raise the question of how much help he might have had. Later in the interview, Katt took it further, accusing Kevin of becoming a gatekeeper, the kind of figure who decides which comedians get to rise and which ones don't. He pointed to Kevin's support of comedian and actress Tiffany Haddish as an example.
They tell you that there's no gatekeepers, but we keep seeing the same people open the gate. Didn't Kevin open the gate and let Tiffany in? Ain't he now opening it up for... Don't such and such open the gate? But what do you mean ain't no gatekeepers?
Kevin had famously lent Tiffany $300 when she was homeless, and years later, he helped her secure a breakout role in Night School alongside him. To many, that looks like loyalty and generosity, but Katt's point was that this is exactly what gatekeeping looks like. Once Kevin reached the top, he began pulling the strings on who gets access. And while Tiffany's story shows Kevin opening doors, fellow comedian and actress Monique's shows the opposite. She says Kevin promised to executive produce and help relaunch The Monique Show, which had been cancelled after 2 seasons in 2011. The project was already moving with Endemol, and with Kevin attached, it finally seemed real. But just 2 weeks later, he bailed.
I didn't ask Kevin Hart to do anything. He said, I'll executive produce, I'll partner with you. I said, good shit, Kevin, because we're in a deal with Endemol. And we're trying to get our talk show back. Mo, whatever it is, I got you. Now, Kevin Hart is one of the biggest entertainers right now in the world,
Correct.
right? And was then. We got off the phone with Kevin Hart. We called Endemol immediately and said, Kevin Hart said, whatever we want to do, he got us. He's going to partner, executive produce. They was like, oh, this is incredible because when you put Kevin Hart's name on it, you already know what it is.
Correct.
2 weeks go by. We get a call from Endemol. Endemol says, we just got a call from Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky. And Dave Becky said, Kevin doesn't want anything to do with Monique. So whatever she told y'all, he doesn't want to do anything with her, nothing. You know, he doesn't want any kind of relationship with Monique.
Monique couldn't believe what she was hearing, so she called Kevin directly.
Well, soon as we got off the phone and they told us what Kevin's manager, David Becky, said, I called Kevin Hart immediately. I said, hey, baby, We just got off the phone with Endemol, and they said Dave Becky called them up and said, you don't want anything to do with me. He said, Mo, that's a miscommunication, and we're going to talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you right now, it's a miscommunication. That was 2 years ago. If you talk to him, I talk to him. I've never talked back to Kevin Hart again.
Monique's story echoed Katt Williams' point that Kevin, now at the top, had become a gatekeeper. When Kevin was asked about that label in an interview, he brushed it off, acting like he didn't even understand what the word meant.
Who are the gatekeepers? Who are you actually speaking of when you refer to the gatekeepers? It's like when you hear people say, yeah, I would, but you know, they hating on me. Who is they?
He sidestepped this, acting like the concept didn't apply to him. But when pressed, Kevin reframed gatekeeping as a business decision rather than personal favoritism.
Everyone feels like they deserve an opportunity. Everyone feels like they have the thing that it takes to be a star, and you're supposed to. You're supposed to feel that way. But when it comes to me investing my money that is servicing this machine and the jobs in it, my investments have to come in a manner where I'm assuring a return.
From a business perspective, Kevin's argument makes sense. Companies survive on return, not risk. Not everyone can be given a shot. But what that framing leaves out is the reality of systemic power, the kind of power he now holds. And just as he was defending that power, an old scandal came roaring back. That same year, during a deposition in the long-running extortion case tied to the 2017 scandal, Kevin admitted under oath that he and Montia Sabag had slept together at the time when his wife Anika was heavily pregnant. He revealed that he'd been pressured into taking ecstasy, slipped it into his drink, and that they had sex the following morning, after the footage had already been captured. He claimed Sabag deliberately positioned herself in front of a hidden camera, as if she wanted it recorded. The revelations dragged the buried chapter back into the spotlight, cutting through the carefully polished image Kevin had spent the last few years building. Yet even as those cracks appeared, the comedy world handed him its highest honor, the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, previously awarded to legends like Richard Pryor, George Carlin, and Whoopi Goldberg. For Kevin, it was the industry's ultimate stamp of legitimacy, cementing him not just as a star, but as part of comedy's Hall of Fame. It was a surreal contradiction. The same year he was exposed in depositions, he was also celebrated as one of comedy's greats. And that contradiction says a lot about Kevin's career, because the bigger he's gotten, the more he's changed. The scrappy underdog has become the mogul calling the shots. The raw comic who built a career on painful honesty has been replaced by something safer, more polished, more corporate. And maybe that's the real cost of success. Kevin Hart has built a platform few comedians could ever dream of, but in doing so, he might have become exactly what his critics accuse him of: a gatekeeper, a product of the machine, a corporation in sneakers. That kid from Philly who turned dysfunction into laughter may have lost the very thing that made audiences love him in the first place.